You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
One of these days, I'm going to remake that intro, and one of these days, I'm not going to forget something starting the stream or setting up one of these streams. Welcome to my usual weekly recap streams, where I discuss all things anime and talk about a bunch of news, weeklies, all that kind of stuff. So, tonight on the agenda, we have the usual recap for all of the seasonal anime, and I found out that I was actually behind on 2 seasons by 1 episode each, so I caught up on those. And then we're going to talk about some issues with tourists, and not like actual tourists, like the kind of people who will invade your hobbies and then try to write the history of them and pretend like they were always there and that it was always this way. That's why we're cooking the anime community tonight, because there are a lot of people who want to straw man classic anime fans or people who became anime fans before COVID into a position that they don't actually hold. And they want to pretend that if you watch something that isn't mainstream, you're somehow a weirdo and there's something wrong with you because you would rather watch the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya than Attack on Titan. But we'll get into that after the usual recaps that we do. So, hello to everyone. Marcel, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I always like seeing you here. And Ronnie, if you don't fall asleep and make this a 12-plus hour stream, then you're gay. Of course you would say something like that. Muffler Tape, nice to see you. All right, well, there's not really much to talk about as far as like getting into this. I mean, I've been reading Witch Hat Atelier, which like I just dropped a pen. Which like I said, it's like Harry Potter but in manga form. It's pretty good. Marshall King has been interesting. It has me hooked for art style and storytelling. I think like the shonen style of weapons with the gun, it doesn't work as well with guns. Especially once they start talking about guns that can annihilate like entire continents. I'm just like, okay, that's very shonen. This doesn't seem right to me, but whatever. And then of course, we have like Drama Queen, which is one that I just think is, I don't know. It was interesting to see it because it blew up really quickly, but now it's really only there because I kind of want to see where it goes, but I'm not terribly interested in it anymore. Well, that's just manga and random stuff that I've read. Let's talk about some anime. Switch over to this. So this is where we left off last week. A lot of things in the interesting category, not a lot of things in the very good category, and a surprising number of series that I would consider must-watch titles. Things that have been really, really good. So, let's take it from the top of the list. Shangri-La Frontier, the thing I usually start every fucking week off by watching because it airs on a Sunday. Let's actually make this a little bit bigger so everyone can see a little bit more clearly. There we go. So I think this episode was much better than last week's. They're in a new setting. With a whole new unique scenario that has a time limit on it, like 170 hours. So a week for Sonraku and crew to figure out what's going on and defeat a Colossi. There's a new NPC character who's been introduced. And he's interesting. Not the greatest, not the worst. I kind of want to see where it all goes. But this last episode only had Sunraku in the well, when we get to the abyss, it only has Sunraku, and we don't see anyone else in the crew, and then we're introduced to the new NPC character. So I'm curious to see. I am curious to see where it's going to go. How much for you to fall asleep on stream? I don't know. If you give me $100, I will go to the. No. Actually, no. I'm not. I'm not playing that. I'm not playing that game. I'm not going to sleep on stream. Okay, no matter the money. It's just because I don't. I don't feel like passing out in this fucking chair and then waking up with a. Issue. So yeah, I agree. The setting is very interesting. Technically, what they're doing is it's an underwater city that is upside down so that the sky is facing the ocean floor and the ground is actually going is the direction of the ocean surface. It's really weird but very creative, and that's one thing I will praise Shangri-La Frontier for is all its settings have been really interesting. Oops. And Caleb put the cap. 200. Ronnie, if you're going to pay me for to stop being something I'm not, I will gladly take the money, okay? It's a new definition of I ain't gay, but $20 is $20. Anyway, this week's episode of Shangri-La Frontier pushed it quite a bit up for me. Up the list. Was not disappointed with it like I was the last like I was last week. Good, go ahead. I say this shit specifically because I know it's funny. Reminded me a bit of Wild Cataclysm with the underwater world. Really liked it. Even that one. Really like that one, even though most people hated it. Yeah. That's. I'm looking forward to how they're going to wrap up this season. So, moving on down the list. I shouldn't have shut my phone off because I need my notes. The 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you. So this was the baseball episode. And I like that they did the whole Dragon Ball parody where everyone's going Super Saiyan and they were playing Shala, Head Shala in the background. It was great, honestly. Genuinely a funny episode. They parodied like the very like shonen-esque style of like Dragon Ball calling out attack names with the pitches and stuff. That was funny. They actually did the characters well, and then of course the whole like Shizuka thing where the other team decided they were going to bully Shizuka and it riled everyone up. Pandora's box. Great episode all around. Honestly, like this series is just so dumb you can't help but laugh at it. Like it's all around one of those most stupid things. And yes, I agree. It is one of the very first times I've actually enjoyed a baseball episode of an anime. Still, I think my favorite part was just the Chala, Head Chala playing in the background as everyone's going Super Saiyan. All right. But I'm excited for tomorrow because I think we're gonna get another character introduced for the 100 Girlfriends, and I'm trying to remember whether it's is baseball an anime trope? Well, baseball is a very popular sport in Japan, so it's not unusual for like a random like slice of life episode to do a whole or a random slice of life series to do a whole like baseball episode for a show. It's not like the most common trope, but it is a thing. Um. Okay. Moving on. So I don't really know if I want to move this one up yet, but I'm certainly not moving it down. It's been a fantastic series all around. The next one on the list to talk about is Zenshu. So this episode was a huge backstory on Natsuko Hirose. And I don't know how to feel about it because it felt like a detour from the entire plot. Now, I do enjoy the series. It's still entertaining enough in and of its own right, but like they spent this whole episode talking about all these people who fell in love with Natsuko before she gets isekai'd, and then they transition back into, like, in the very end, to Natsuko and the crew of A Tale of Perishing just chilling. Well, the thing is, technically, I think baseball is kind of an American sport. At least the way it's played now was an American thing. I could be wrong on that. Take that with a grain of salt. And it was one of the exports, or the cultural exports from America, that really, really caught on. Well, like two things that, like, as far as American, like, entertainment and sports that have caught on are baseball, um, and well, just our media in general, as far as movies, TV shows, stuff like that. Things like that get exported a lot. Those are, if I'm not mistaken, cultural exports are basically America's biggest GDP earners. I'd have to double check that. But I remember seeing a statistical breakdown about it. Either way, I would still, it's a thing across the world. Baseball is very popular. Well, at least with Japan and Mexico, with the United States. I don't know about much of the rest of the world. I do know that those three countries in particular really do like their baseball. So yeah, as far as to wrap up the Zenshu conversation, um, it's all right. Not the worst. I'm not going to move it up. I don't think it deserves that. I'm also not going to move it down. It's just kind of hovering at the bottom of the interesting category right now. I'm just, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it at times. The Red Ranger. Sorry, this threw me through a loop for some reason. Hardly feels relevant here. Yeah. So the Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world. So our big boobed wizard lady has finally admitted that she has a thing for the Red Ranger. And then she and Red decide to get it on that night, and she goes out of her way to put like a magic seal on the door. And of course, his response is, "Please be gentle." And then, of course, we get the whole interaction of them standing in front of the throne room door, arguing about whether the two did it the night before or not. And there's the princess that they've been working for, who whenever anyone says the word sex or something along that lines, it gets censored with like Sentai trope call outs. It was funny, and honestly, this was a genuinely good episode. It's still just an okay series, especially as we've been introduced to some of like the major villains and stuff. But the character work was decent in this last episode, and I mean the story has progressed a little bit to a point where I actually feel somewhat interested in it. Hardly would give it a recommendation, but I find enjoyment in it. So I have a crush at work. That's the next one on the list. So in this episode, our main character, the guy, goes out of his way to try and get a present for his girlfriend. Okay, respectable. And he decides to get a ring for her, and it turns into this whole ordeal where he's trying to hide it from her, and she starts to suspect something, and it causes a little bit of an issue. And then, of course, they get busy after that whole thing is resolved. It's generally a very like wholesome series in both senses of the word. Like they're genuinely a good pair, and it's like a chill series to watch, and there isn't a whole lot of like exciting like big moments to this one. There are a bunch of small things that make it like a comfort series, that make it worth watching because like, oh well, you want a good romance series? Okay, here you go. And it's adult office workplace romance, so yeah, that part of it was a little weird, but I think it ends up coming down to just like dating culture being different overall. But yeah, that was one of the things where when I saw previews to that episode, I was like, "Oh, is he actually like proposing to her, or what's going on here?" No, he just gifted her a ring. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to really say much about the series. Like, I do kind of want to move it down, even though I like it, because it's one of those things where like I enjoy this show, yes, but it's one of those comfort shows, something that's just nice and relaxing to watch. So I don't think it really deserves to be all the way at the top of interesting, even for as much as I do enjoy it. All right, let's talk about tying the knot with an Amagami sister, because this one I actually did really like this episode this week. So I thought Yuna's story was done really well in this episode. The random body swaps that they kept going through this whole episode was funny, where they would switch back and then or they would switch back and then be forced back into each other's bodies. It's and of course the whole time Yuna's friend is like wondering what the hell is going on with Yuna. Um I really do like what the series has done with Uryu as a protagonist and the way he's handled a lot of the problems and a lot of the relationships he's had with people in this series, particularly with him deciding he isn't going to peer into he isn't going to use forceful tactics to look into Yuna's life. He had the opportunity to see all her dreams and her passions and all that stuff that she wouldn't tell him about, and he decided to not take advantage of the opportunity. Overall, like this series has just been fantastic. Like genuinely a great show. I don't want to move it around. Sorry. As far as like a romance anime, it's one of my favorites. But yeah, overall, just a very funny episode to me with them being forced to body swap regularly. And then a really good episode on top of that because it was very well written. It handled like the whole Yuna side of the story very well. And we got to see a little bit into her life before becoming a shrine maiden and all that. It looks like they are going to do like the whole like we're only going to get one season of this, but honestly I'm fine with that because it feels like it's going to hit a really good stopping spot. Also, hello RCS Rules, nice to see you. A series that's like genuinely mixes like the harem romance thing, comedy, and the supernatural elements very, very well. One of the things I will say constantly about fiction is that if it doesn't have good characters, I'm not inherently going to be as interested in the story. This This has me interested because all the characters feel like they aren't terribly generic. They all have their own issues that are well developed and handled throughout this. And everyone has their own little arcs that they go through in order to get to the end of the story. So yeah, this one is definitely one where, like, if you're a fan of romance anime or just a slice of life stuff in general that isn't like action oriented or action heavy, you'll probably really enjoy Amagami Sister. Tying the knot with an Amagami Sister. All right, let's talk about ReZero. This episode was not my favorite episode, but I thought it was still really good. The animation was definitely a bit of a downgrade, but from what I've heard about from the behind the scenes stuff on the production of ReZero, White Fox ran into some issues, and the reason Arc 6 isn't being put out as part of Season 3 is because of those issues. So there's probably going to be an Season 4 announcement here, and it's going to solely focus on Arc 6, which is going to be insane because Arc 6 is one of the most crazy pieces of ReZero out there. Like real, like psychological thriller kind of stuff. That, and I'm also looking forward to seeing all of the stuff in the Pleiades Watchtower get actually animated. I support this, but I think you should just leave a like in general, even if you are gay, okay? Just leave a like. Okay. But yeah, as far as this one goes, I'm kind of disappointed with the downgrade in the ReZero's animation, but it was good. One of the things I do want to praise is for the part where Liliana sings her song to negate the effects of Wrath's authority, like the damage linking that it does. There's some complicated explanation there, but it effectively comes down to emotional resonance, and it basically amplifies everyone's negative emotions and links their mind and body together. So if one person is hurt, a bunch of other people hurt. So Liliana basically has to do this whole performance to use her blessing to overcome that authority. They actually wrote a song and performed it for this. That is what I respect about this episode the most. Most of the time, you'll get some like cheap cop out. Now, My Hero Academia actually went and wrote the songs that they performed. That was good. So, like, Hero 2 was actually a pretty cool song. When they performed that for the UA Culture Festival in like season 4, I think it was. Yeah, that sounds about right. One of my big issues with anime is that a lot of times they will cop out on that stuff because it's extra work to actually write a song that people are going to enjoy. And you're taking a huge risk by performing an actual song in an anime. And especially if people don't like it. So hats off to them actually like doing something for that part. Also, what I will say is when I read the novel for this, I had hated Priscilla Buriel up until this point. And it's at this point where I actually really started to like her. And I thought she was a much better character because of Arc 5. Before Arc 5, she is an obnoxious, bitchy asshole. But once you get to the fight with Wrath and you see more of her character, things make a whole lot more sense about her, especially since she's going to be a major player in Arc 7 and 8. So, yeah, that was good. I don't understand the hate for Liliana. I guess web novel readers have a different experience than the rest of us. But she's an all right character. Not the greatest, but I just don't think she's as annoying as people say she is. Dad's been reincarnated. I'm glad that this episode was mostly the fantasy world stuff. that part of it, I'm glad that they're sticking more to that. They did have a little bit of the family stuff, but it was good to use it for accenting comedic moments and talking about some of the more important things that happen in the story. That part I do like. Again, this series has solid animation for no reason. Like, it doesn't even need good animation, and yet it still does. Like, the short little, like, 10-second combat clips they give you are still really well animated for whatever reason. And they did the whole thing about, like, Duke Auburn and Grace, her interactions with her father and with Anna, this whole with sorry, her, I just saw your tweet, Ronnie catching strays. Well, there are 2 Ronnies who can go fuck themselves now. Yes, you know who you are. But yes, Ronnie had to catch a stray for this one. Anyway, yeah, it is a genuinely fun series. Like, I enjoy the shit out of this. I look forward to it every week. Like, these are the series right here that I look forward to every week. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, like, absolutely worth a try. We'll get to some of these later because all of these had, just about every one of these had a really good episode this week. ReZero had one of its weaker episodes. Unfortunate. I'm just hoping that they saved some of that animation budget for Garfield versus Kurgan. Now that you say that, oh god. That'd be funny, actually. All right. Yeah, I mean, the stuff with the father-daughter stuff was enjoyable. And the whole thing about Anna losing weight and then accidentally putting on muscle so that she doesn't fit in her clothes was kind of funny. Just genuinely like watching all the shenanigans in this. It's so good. It's so good. Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf. So I put out my video today on this series and why I like it. And yes, it does largely have to do with the fact that I have a thing for silver-haired elf girls. It's just a thing. Excuse me. Talk so much my throat starts to hurt. While I agree, I still did enjoy it because it stuck more to the slice of life stuff that happened this episode. I enjoy the fantasy much more when it's not meh combat sequences. Where are we? I think their Mary and Kazuhiko's reactions to everyone thinking that they're a couple was kind of funny, and the way they sort of freaked out about everything. And of course, now they've returned all the way to where they began the series, and they may be bringing one very, very eccentric dragon along with them to Japan this time for a Hot Springs trip, which I kind of figured that the dragon was going to end up in Japan at some point. I just wonder how they're going to do that with all of the not very human features she has. Either way, I did want to move this series up this week because I genuinely enjoyed this episode. Again, if you really want my like detailed thoughts on this, check out the video, please. But it's in short, it's a really nice chill series. It's a comfort series. Like, you watch it just to be happy and feel nice about things. Oh, there was one little thing with it about some of Mary's guild mates following her around now because I want to take advantage of whatever secrets she knows. So who knows what's going to happen there, particularly with the the dragon hatchlings. But I don't really have much else to say other than like the fantasy, like the action fantasy part of it, not that great. The slice of life stuff and the Japan side of it has been pretty good. And those are the parts I enjoy more. And I wish they would focus more on stuff like that. It works best as a comfort series, not an actual like action adventure series. All right, so now let's talk about the single most erratic series that has been on this list in the history of me doing these breakdowns. Dragon Ball Daima. Because it's shooting all the way back up to the interesting category with this last episode. Now, I have liked these last couple of episodes of Dragon Ball Daima. Particularly the stuff where they're actually fighting Goma. That's been fun. And now the crew are adults again, and we've gotten some good action. Vegeta versus Goma was a really good bit of animation. His final flash was cool. And then, of course, we get adult Goku going Super Saiyan 4. Which, I keep saying this, but Super Saiyan 4 was always cooler than Super Saiyan Blue. It just was, okay? And you're not going to change my mind on that. Outside of the action for this series and how well some of the fight scenes have been animated, I have not cared for it. Really, the only thing holding my interest is the fact that it's got some OG Dragon Ball Z hype to it. Yes, Super Saiyan 4 is absolutely peak. So if you're watching this for writing, I don't understand why. But if you're watching this just for some good Dragon Ball action, you'll probably be satisfied. It's only about 20 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. So it should be ending next week. Yeah, next week it comes to an end. I mean, oh well, but I haven't really been enthralled by its story, so I'm just looking forward to a really good send-off for Dragon Ball here. Or for Daima here. I don't think it's particularly canon to anything, so who knows? Other than that, I don't have much to say about this other than Super Saiyan 4 cool. Vegeta's oh, right, I almost forgot. Vegeta Vegeta loving his wife has always been one of my favorite elements of this series because he's such a hard ass, but the moment it comes to Bulma, he's a completely different person. So when she threatened to not ever take a bath with him again in this episode, and he just backs out of the fight entirely, like, all right, we're ready to work together. That was good. I always like those little moments with Vegeta. It is absolutely badass to love your wife, okay? It absolutely is badass to love your wife. All right, so that's Dragon Ball Daima. I'm getting married to a girl in class that I hate. So we have another Chaos Gremlin involved now. Akane's younger sister, Maho. And I don't know how to feel about her because she is crazy. And now it was a very, very fast episode. Or a very, very fast-paced episode. It felt like it was blitzing through things, but it honestly almost felt correct because of Maho's behavior. It matched her personality and the way she was basically just a whirlwind bringing everyone along with her. That said, though, it does seem like Maho wants to like drive a wedge between Akane and Saito, which is kind of weird, but it seems like a bit of a siscon thing where she's a bit possessive of her older sister. And it may be something where she just doesn't want Saito involved with her, and she's up to some sort of weird scheme that she's going to try and distract Saito with. Either way, a very funny episode. I still did enjoy it. It's not as good as last week's with the rings, but it was entertaining. It was funny. It certainly was chaos, but not its best display thus far. Let's see here. Apothecary Diaries. So this one, very good episode. Love Akane. Yes, yes. So I think this is going to be, as far as that goes, I think it's going to end up being one of the things that actually makes them admit to each other that they like each other. Where like, how I feel like it's going to play out is the very tropey. Maho's going to try and like prove that Saito is like a bad guy or whatever, and he's just going to shut her down and refuse it, and it's going to force Akane and Saito closer together because we already know Akane has a thing for Saito, even if she won't admit it to herself. She's already frustrated at the fact that her friend has been hitting on Saito and that Shisei is very close to the guy. Yeah, same. The ring episode was my favorite one of the series so far, as well. It was it was an absolutely great episode. Apothecary Diaries. Let's restart this topic since I got distracted. It's fine. No one's got to blame themselves. Some of these detours I like taking. So the Apothecary Diaries was another mystery of the week episode with some really good lore implications for the series. I like that it talked a little bit about the founding of their society. It was talking about some of the myths that they have as far as how the emperor came to be, as well as the shrine of choosing, so to speak, and how that worked with all of the actual like scientific breakdown and the genetics of it. There was also the part about the emperor teasing Mao Mao and Jinshi that was kind of entertaining. All around a very solid episode for the series, and I like this stuff a lot more, where it actually will like take like one episode that is a mystery. Honestly, here's what I'll say about like slow versus fast-paced series. I think a slow-paced series is much easier to do, which is why I prefer them, or is because it has time to actually give you a sense of the characters and to do small little things that help you invest more in the series. Even if it's just a scene of some characters walking through part of the world, that part of it makes the world feel a little bit more alive and thus you invest in it more. Them taking time to elaborate on some small little facet of a character, that helps you invest in the character more because now they seem more realistic. You've seen more detail to them. And when it comes to storytelling, you can be far more detailed with a slower pace. I do not like super fast paced stories. To bring up one that I thought had an issue with fast pacing, Mecha Ude from last season, I think it was. Yeah. That series I don't think was all that great because of its pacing. I again have issues with the pacing of I'm getting married to a girl in class that I hate. I wasn't a huge fan of what you call it, pseudo harem. Because generally when you pace things really, really fast, it just you don't have enough time to deal with all the details and all the fun little pieces of it. It's just thing happened to thing happened to thing happened. There's no reason, there's no impact, there's no investment on behalf of the audience. And because of that, you missed nothing by dropping Mecha Ude. All you will see is people kill the same villain like 4 times. A bunch of very poorly done, goofy fights. And fuck. Fucking hell. It wasn't even an internet connection thing. It's just StreamYards. Let's bring it back. Yes, this is my stream jacket. I got it for Halloween, and I've used it as my streaming jacket ever since. And that's kind of the whole point, is because, well, I've made my video on why I like Subaru Natsuki as a main character and why I think he's great. And why that particular character had a huge impact on my life. Anyway, hopefully everyone can hear me. Hopefully everything's working fine. And we can pick back up. So did I complete my stuff, my talk about Mecha Ude and all of that, and why I didn't like Pseudo Harem? Or was I just ranting for a while? Okay, I don't care if you shit on ReZero. Midway through it. Well, effectively, what I said about Pseudo Harem is it was cute, it was fluffy, it was a nice series, but it wasn't really like terribly creative or enthralling with the way it did everything. It was just a bunch of flirting the whole time, and about halfway through the series, I was like, all right, this is kind of boring. I'm gonna finish it out, but like this series is not what everyone cracked it up to be. Especially when you had something like Too Many Losing Heroines out, which is peak romance, peak fucking fiction. Anyway, I did the Apothecary Diaries, I believe. So let's move on to Orb. You're entitled to your opinion. Anyway, Orb. It had an interesting twist this week with Novak. and how he was like too late to stop the new main character from striking a deal with some powerful people, and now he's having this whole psychological break over not being able to to put an end to heliocentrism. It's still one of those series where I'm not like terribly invested in it anymore because a lot of the characters that I've liked have died and I'm just not as interested in this new cast. I'm literally only here because I've made it this far and I'm going to complete this. But I mean, it did have some interesting things that it did this week, so I at least respect it. It's an okay series. It's like 3 episodes left, I think, for it. I think that's all there is. Let's see. Orb on the movements of the earth. So, excuse me. Okay, there's 25 episodes in total. Yeah, it's look, I wanted to like Orb, and some of the animation and stuff has been cool, but I have genuine complaints about the series as a whole. Like the fact that a lot of the shots are just really, really dark and hard to view. The fact that it spends a lot of the latter half of this series philosophizing over shit rather than actually like showing any like proofs of heliocentrism or anything. As well as the fact that a lot of the characters I like get killed off very like halfway through the series. So it didn't go how I had hoped, but it hasn't been the worst thing I've watched. You know what has gone the way I hoped and been really, really freaking good? Solo leveling. So let's talk about that because that's the next entry on the list. So honestly, when it comes to solo leveling, the large scale fights when Jinwoo uses his shadows are really where it's at if you ask me. This series really succeeds on that. The combat animation is generally really good. The impact frames at the end of that episode were fucking awesome. The way they like changed art style specifically for that. Asil, yeah, she's an endearing character just for being kind of like, I don't know, kawaii, I guess is the best word to use. But I will say that I do kind of have to retract a little bit of my statement about how the story isn't really there for the series because it's just not the most compelling thing of all time. It's oh god, oh, sorry, my elbow just fucking locked up for no reason. I injured it or something at work swinging a hammer and shit. So, really bad pain. The story, I think I have to eat a little bit of crow for saying the story wasn't all that great because, well, they've been doing a really good job developing this and going back over it and watching it rather than having the long breaks between manhwa as I've read it. It's actually been much better, and the foreshadowing they've been doing in the anime has been really good. Plus, we're getting little bits of lore and stuff about the series in a much more compact fashion than what I've gotten out of reading the manhwa. So, don't fucking say that because there are people in my not like a how dare you kind of don't fucking say that, but like don't bring that evil on me, man. Do not, because there are people in my family who have Parkinson's. I don't want to think about that. Do not jinx me, Pilgrim. So yeah, the story's been getting better as this season's progressed. And a lot of the fights have been much more fun to watch because they've been more large scale, and the amount of animation like that A1 has been, or the amount of effort that A1 has been putting into the animation has been amazing. Like the stuff about the war in the demon realm was interesting. And it's a part that I kind of forgot about after not reading it in the manhwa for a while. Like there are some cool implications to the story, but it's not like I'm going to sit here and say it's the deepest or most meaningful or most epic thing ever. Is it a good series? Yes. It's a damn fine series. For if you're looking for pure like adrenaline junkie, like animation fan kind of entertainment. But I'd still say there are stories that there are series with much better stories that clear this. I think honestly, Shangri-La Frontier and Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister have better stories. It's just Solo Leveling has some amazing scenes. All right, let's move down the list. A rank party. So this episode got really fucking dark. And I genuinely liked it actually. There was also some really like interesting lore implications with this episode, with this series, about like the gods and stuff, where they encountered Persephone in a dungeon. So that was in Yuke gets cursed. And there's also the fact that the mage girl from Thunderpike has decided that she no longer wants to be a part of them and that she's going to betray the group. So, for as far as A rank party goes, I'm actually going to move it up to the very good category because of this episode. I thought it was really well developed. The revenge thing expired somewhat quickly, but it was still really well done. And I'm glad they didn't drag it out or and they like resolved it within an episode. Pardon me. I'm glad that they resolved the whole revenge thing within an episode because that in and of itself would have bothered me if they had had this like depressing element to it that just dragged out for a couple of episodes. I want them to get back more so to the adventure part of that. I like the dark elements of it. Yeah, those were interesting because it was a huge change in tone that I think really shakes up the series in a good way. And it brings a bunch of character arcs to a head. So yeah, that one, very good. It's going up to the very good category because I genuinely did like that episode. I hadn't been as interested in it up until this point. Now you have this idea about other world, the dungeons being links to other worlds. You have the gods. You have this whole thing with Thunderpike and Clover being at odds with each other, and the whole like revenge plot that Simon tried to enact. Ugh. Amaku MD. We got an episode this week. And honestly, this one was a really good single part mystery. The last one they did wasn't all that great. But this one I thought was really well written. Basically, Tako gets sued by one of the chicks, by one of the patients she treated early in the series. And it turns into this whole thing where apparently the mother of a child she saved was actually pretty abusive. It was Munchausen's Munchausen's disorder by proxy or whatever, where basically she just was using her son's illness as a means to gain sympathy from other people. So she was effectively like harming her own son in order to try and get people to pay attention to her. Yes, it was absolutely effed up, but I thought it was a really well written episode, especially with the way they dealt with the woman. So I like this series isn't exactly light and fluffy, but this one was a much darker episode than what I had expected out of the series ever. And the lead up to the next episode kind of shows that like we may get some more characterization of Takao, which I like. So far, she's basically just kind of been this really like standoffish person who is very blunt with everything she thinks. And she even said in this episode that she doesn't understand people's emotions. So she just uses logic to figure out how they feel. But yeah, good episode for that, and I'm glad it came back on a strong note. Guild receptionist. I'm moving way up because I liked the relationship stuff with this and the way Alina has responded to a lot of the things that have happened in this episode. Her just sort of like acknowledging Jade, the fact that like she owes Jade for the date and not being like super like upset about it and everything, and actually going along with him because he actually helped her out with her work and stuff. That was a nice element to it. There was also the fact that she genuinely cares about Jade and his party members. And the fact that they were about to rush off on a mission without inviting her, and she just said, "You know what? I'm coming with you because I'd rather miss out on the festival than have you guys die. If you're gonna fight a dark god, might as well be there with you." The issue is though, I don't really care about the dark gods. Like the whole plot of the series isn't really all that interesting to me at the moment. And this new one just doesn't really feel all that interesting either. Not like the first one was terribly amazing in and of itself, but this new one is just kind of like, I don't know, meh. But that said, I mean, its biggest issue is the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the plot or the world. Like it's interesting enough to keep me coming back, especially because I do like the like romance element of it. But other than that, I mean, it's an all right series. I wouldn't put it in any category up from here, especially after seeing as many episodes of it as I have. But oh well, what can you say? Let's talk about I Want to Escape from Princess Lessons, because this series just this episode kind of got up to what I honestly yes, it is very character driven. The story is not that compelling, which is why the episodes that actually focus on the characters more than any like major story developments tend to be the ones that I like the most. So Princess Lessons. This one was weird, but it was kind of what I was hoping for this series would become after watching that first episode. It was entirely a funny series of events set inside of, well, inside of the royal palace this time instead of just out the countryside like I had expected it to. And it's all ghost stories and a huge misunderstanding. Apparently, there are booby traps throughout the castle that are only active at night, and everyone keeps falling victim to them. And it turns out that rather than dumping people off in like in some sort of like torture chamber, the queen had taken that area and decided to turn it into her own personal spa. So there's this whole thing of people like disappearing as they're searching for like a ghost or something. And it turns out to just be a huge misunderstanding. It was a funny, enjoyable episode, and I wish more of the series has been like this. But they did kind of have to get over the hump of Clark being a fucking creep and being way too fucking clingy and possessive in order to get to this point. From there on, it's been entertaining. It's been a fun show. But I wish it would have been more like this from the beginning. Okitsuda. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. I wanted to move this up to very good because I did enjoy that last episode. I thought the characters were, I thought it was just good. Like genuinely, I think it's been good. So Okitsuda. We got the whole A&W restaurant in the series, which was weird to see. I thought like normally they change stuff like that, but seeing like a legitimate like A&W logo and restaurant in the series, with like the drive-in, was weird to me. Like I get it, Okinawa. I believe there's a U.S. military base in Okinawa, so like there were actually there's probably a lot of stuff like that. But it's one of like the very few drive-ins in Japan. I feel that, Marcel. I feel that. It makes me want to run to Culver's and get a fucking burger. Which, to those of you who aren't Midwestern Americans, Culver's is a fast food chain, and their cheeseburgers are fucking great. And this is like the most American thing to say, but like you go to Culver's, you get a cheeseburger and a side of cheese, like deep fried cheese curds. Absolutely unhealthy. Absolutely like the epitome of like the problem with American like obesity rates and everything, but it's fucking crack cocaine for me, man. Like I got a problem. But moving on with the discussion of Okitsura, Teru finally gets to swim, but he gets stung by a jellyfish and they have to pour vinegar all over him. And they go through this whole thing about the ecology of Okinawa's oceans and all the venomous things that live there. That was okay. But there was also the cute little story at the end about Mina and Kana doing their whole train trip because Kana really wanted to reenact a scene from a movie she watched. That part was entertaining, as well as like the part about the friend watching Kana and Teru interact. Like she clearly likes him, but she's too shy to say anything, and he is dense as a pile of bricks. So it was a fun episode. Its best episode, probably not. But I don't think it was I don't think it was bad. I don't think it's worth moving down for anything. I was also cheated out of my beach episode. Come on, that one JPEG of them in swimsuits was not enough. You know what? Fair enough. I respect that opinion. All right. Let's keep moving down the list because we have a few more to go. Namely Honey Lemon Soda, Medalist, Blue Box, Sakamoto Days, and Trillion Games. So let's talk about Honey Lemon Soda. Honestly, there's a lot of feels in this latest episode. I mean, stereotypical shoujo stuff. What did you think? There was some bullying stuff that went down, and there was some good information about the characters and their backgrounds and what made them who they are. I did like those parts. I also like the fact that the main character, Ishimori, has become more and more open and more expressive across the series, and she continues to do so. The amount of crying in this episode, I wasn't a fan of, but it's a shoujo anime, so what do you expect? It's not made for guys, but it's still a good series. They actually, one of my big complaints about this series, about how they never changed the soundtrack, was fixed. They did change the soundtrack, but it was still somber and boring as fuck. So yeah, it was a good episode, but I don't think it was as good as some of the other stuff that is on this list. I wouldn't move it up a bunch. Good characterization, good storytelling as far as Uka herself goes, but yeah. Medalist. So we're moving into another competition with Medalist. And I still do like this series. I'm not going to move it down or up, but I just don't think this was its strongest episode so far. I do like this relationship that the coach and student have. And don't think about that too much. It's mostly just he is her biggest fan and her biggest supporter. And she absolutely needs someone like that to be on her side at all times and believe in her, because she has confidence issues with how late she started figure skating. Still, it ended on a cliffhanger, so I'm a little bit upset. We haven't seen her performance in this competition. If I were to make a prediction, or if I were to say how I would rate this series, is I would say she'd do well in this, but I don't think she would win this competition. I feel like her winning this competition would almost kind of feel wrong. One of the things that Blue Box does well is it actually makes any victory that the characters get actually feel earned, because you see the amount of failure they face. You see their struggle up to that point. I think Medalist needs to do something like that, where sure, she did well in the prelim category. She won. But in this, I feel like if she wins, it might be a disservice to the character, because at that point, she's just basically getting win after win after win, and it won't feel the same. Do I want her to win throughout the series overall? Yes, because I like her character and her motivations and all that. That's what keeps me coming back to it. But if you keep handing her wins in these competitions, it's not going to feel right. Especially this is only the second sports anime I've ever watched, to be fair, but I feel like that's one of the things about sports anime, about Blue Box, that I have liked, is that struggle, is the portrayal of hard work and effort in developing talent. And there needs to be an element of that to show that she can improve. It's not all just natural talent, because if it's all just natural talent, it cheapens the effort she puts into learning to figure skate. Yeah, second or third feels more appropriate than her winning first in this. I also feel like her completely biffing and not doing well at all would be bad for this as well. You can play off of that more because it shows like there are areas for her to improve, but I feel like that just sort of is like too much of a weight on the character. You're treading a fine line. You need to know how to rank the character to where the audience will feel like, okay, there is still time to improve, but she did really well in this competition. And speaking of Blue Box, let's talk about Blue Box, because Blue Box was one of the series that I was suspecting that I was an episode behind on every week, but didn't really go to check. And turns out I was. So I am now caught up on Blue Box. I have seen all the way through the play and everything, the way Chinatsu has reacted to other girls being touchy with Taiki. So Chinatsu's finally starting to realize that she may actually like Taiki, which is good. Okay, they're moving that along. But I still don't think she's as entertaining as she's as good a character as Hina. That's always going to be one of my big complaints. She's a good character, just not as good. If she were on her own and didn't have any competition, she would be a really good love interest. The issue is you have Hina there, who is going to lose, and you kind of see that a little bit in this episode with the way Taiki responded, or not this episode, these last 2 episodes, with the way Taiki responded to the whole kiss and the rumors that are going around, and yeah. And then, of course, we have the new girl being... We have another crazy new girl introduced this week. She's a little all over the place, but she's really interested in one of the rival characters, Yusa, who doesn't go to their school. And then she finds out that that the guy's not actually on the team. So, and how many boyfriends she goes through, that part of it was kind of like a little small bit of humor. The other things I will say is I've always liked the way they do like facial expressions and animation for characters and stuff. It's always just just goofy enough to make it entertaining. And the way like Chinatsu treated Taiki when she showed up at his house to deliver her stuff. All around 2 good episodes. So I'm moving it up 1. But I don't think I don't think this series is going to recover enough to get back into like the very good category. Where is it? I know I have a clip for this.
Is that right? You could be right. You're so right!
There's the clip. There we go. So yeah, 2 more to go, and then we move on to talking shit about the anime community. So, Sakamoto Days. This episode was significantly more interesting than the last few. We actually got to see some of Shin's background. I thought that did a good job as far as characterization goes. So I'm moving it back into the interesting category. Could the animation have been better throughout this whole series so far? Yeah, but is it terrible? No. I'm mildly more invested in the characters now because up to this point they felt very bland. At least seeing Shin have some depth to him in the way like he cared about the director's research and he was happy that the guy had actually like achieved something that gave people supernatural powers. There was some actual like characterization to that I thought was interesting. Lou, I don't know. She's already gotten her like backstory and stuff with her family and everything. It just feels like it wasn't done as well as what they did with Shin here. And the fact that Heisuke is kind of like tangentially involved with the crew. Like he was out to kill them and now he's just kind of like on their side. That was an interesting part. So yeah, I'll put this one in the interesting category. I also did like seeing the fact that like the Order and the JAA don't really have an issue with Sakamoto. There's just a bunch of people out. There's just a bunch of other assassins though who seem to want to like F him up for whatever reason. But now we come to the last one. Trillion Game. And this was one that I was actually 2 episodes behind on, so now I'm caught up. I'm going to move it up to the top of OK. Because everything that happened these last couple of episodes was all right. Like the company produced the game, they started making money and all that stuff. Okay, cool. They're on the track to success. I like it. But the part that I really did actually like about all of this was the way Gaku responded to his old high school crush. And like seeing how she had changed and become a different person. And once she found out that he was like he was super successful, she started like interacting with him more and all that. And then he realized that the person that he actually liked back in high school was gone. Like, it was a little sad and all that, but I respect Gaku for being like, no, this isn't what I wanted. Like, to some extent, it makes me happy, but this isn't what I wanted for a relationship. So I'm just not going to do this. And, walking out on that, like, I can respect it. I think as far as his character goes, that's a good direction to take him in. So that one episode did earn it some points. I just don't think that it's been all that great, and I especially don't like the way the characters look in this series. Like, their faces are just, oh. So yeah, Trillion game, just okay. So that is where we are at for this week's anime rankings. And we will set that aside for now, because we got to move into the next topic. Put that there. But for the moment, yeah, I mean, as far as this week goes, I think my favorite things to see. Okay, I think I just cut out. Fuck. StreamYards ain't playing nice with me tonight at all. So yeah, my favorite things to see this my favorite things to see this week were solo leveling, A rank adventurer, and Amaku MD actually. There and back again. Yes. I'm going on an adventure. So, Tale by Crimson Law. Let's move on into talking about some some hard news topics. So there's been a thing with the anime community as of late. COVID drove a lot of people into anime. It made it very, very popular. And that has brought in a bunch of people who want to try and co-opt the entire fucking subculture that is being an otaku, being an anime fan or a weeb. Now, I will admit that I myself am not some like old school anime fan. I got into this back in 2018. Okay. This was before COVID. This was right as I was starting college. I was looking for something interesting because all of entertainment was starting to suck. So I turned to anime. And now I have watched a bunch of people pour in right after me. So I'm not an early adopter. I'm not one of those underground. But even in my experience, anime was looked down on in my friend circle. Like when we would talk about shows we liked, we would talk positively about cartoons, but we would talk shit about stuff like Naruto and all that. And then, of course, one of us in the circle watched Dragon Ball Z and started talking it up. So we checked out Dragon Ball Z, and then from there it was a downward spiral. So let's start here. Anime fans are seen as weirdos. Make our own subculture for ourselves. Normies during pandemic realize anime is actually amazing. Join our culture. Tries to kick us out of our own spaces we built when they kicked us out of the normie space to begin with. So that is effectively the tale of what has happened with anime. That is effectively the story as it's been presented. Anime was weird. Not a lot. You would get bullied for it. And now it's become popular and a bunch of people want to act like there was never any bullying or people looking down on anime. Keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Where is it? I'm looking for one. specific post. Oh, is it actually right here? Yeah. So, yeah, okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So this person decided to try and correct the record, so to speak, saying that anime was never it was never bullied. So they're trying to say that anime was a niche but respected hobby. Weirdos find anime. Weirdos create insular, self-congratulatory subculture, shunning non-weirdos. Normal fans are pushed out. Anime is stigmatized, and normal fans try to return. Weirdos throw a hissy fit. And yes, the reason it sounds familiar is because it did happen to comic book fans, Star Wars fans, Star Trek fans, Tolkien fans, etc. This is the migration of normies into niche hobbies. This is what happens. About old school, recently tried some old anime, didn't like it, and watched reviews on my anime list that one guy was shitting on new anime and said that new anime are all just the same slop. Looked at his profile. Dude has watched only 2 anime released after 2010. Yes, old heads are just as much of a problem as newer anime fans, if you ask me. People who will say that all anime fucking sucks now and that it should go back to what it was in the 80s and 90s, well, I fucking disagree. Like, I genuinely fucking disagree. So, yeah. This person basically, on screen here, wants to revise anime history in general. It was looked down on. It was the uncool thing. And no, it was not co-opted by weirdos. It was co-opted by normies. You see, people who liked anime were treated like weirdos. I won't even say we because I never experienced it, okay? I only saw a little bit of it. Yes, anime is still weird, but it's a fun weird. It's weird in all the right ways, and it actually is willing to experiment with a bunch of odd concepts. So, let's share this guy's post. Excuse me, sorry. Saying we should eliminate otaku as a concept. It's holding the anime as a medium back. So basically, otaku is the word that anime fans use to refer to themselves as. Which, if you're not unfamiliar, otaku is basically just the Japanese word for nerd. Otaku means you really, really like something and you are into it more than most people. So I would be an otaku because I am far more into anime than most people are. And this is all the kind of behavior that has come about after COVID hit. A lot of people have come into this space, into anime, and started demanding changes of things that have been around for 20, 30 years. We'll get to the fucking Hassan stuff. So it got to a interesting point. So let's start here, and we'll follow the spiral. Imagine having creative outside the box stories, and I gotta respect it for that. So yes, this guy got jumped. Sorry, let's start here. Waifu talk in 2025. Again, for non-otakus, waifu is basically just the term for a female character you really like. Okay. This guy got jumped for being normal instead of having waifus. This app gotta be a simulation. So basically, this guy was making fun of like actual anime fans for having female characters they liked. And they want to pretend like it's like they're the normal ones for constantly making fun of people for, like, something that's been the norm in this hobby for years. I say hobby. I mean, you can debate whether it's a hobby or not. It's been the norm for anime fans for years to say stuff, to talk about waifus and stuff. That's not a new phenomenon. And only post-COVID fans seem to have a problem with it because they view saying a character is attractive or I like this female character as a problem, because a lot of times you'll see a lot of younger characters, people who are in, or characters who are in high school, and they take that as some sort of sex crime because you said, hey, this character, let me just bring up the next post, this character is attractive. Now, mind you, this character in this photo here is 15. Marin Kitagawa is in high school. But My Dress Up Darling, if you want to talk about that series in general, is very well written. One that I personally really liked because there's a bit of applicability to it in the fact that it's all about not being ashamed of the things you like. Effectively, the breakdown of the story for anyone who hasn't heard, My Dress Up Darling is the story of this guy who his family makes Hina dolls, so he's grown up making Hina dolls, and now he had someone make fun of him when he was a kid, so he became very self-conscious about it. Yeah, I'm disappointed in it, honestly, but it's been a fantastic series overall. But yeah, effectively, this guy meets the guy who works on the dolls, meets this chick by chance because he's using a sewing machine at school to work on one of the dolls. And now what she happens to be is very, very into cosplay. And she sees his work and she thinks it's amazing. And they become really good friends. And then she develops a crush on him as they work on all of her cosplays and stuff across the series. And it's just it's more wholesome than you would expect out of what you would see from the series. It's very good. But this person here had a point. Because My Dress Up Darling constantly gets brought up as the quote-unquote PDF bait series because everyone wants to label it as something evil because it shows Marin Kitagawa in a swimsuit. I don't even know where to begin breaking down why that logic is fucking wrong, so we'll just move on. So nobody thinks I'd like to go prowl a local high school, but I'll watch My Dress Up Darling instead. They think, I wish I had a girlfriend like that back in school, or that reminds me of an old girlfriend. Aunties project so hard with the she's 15. Yeah, this show triggers nostalgia, not PDF stuff. And it's true. Like I said, really the whole point of this series is you shouldn't be ashamed of your passions, of the things you like. Like there's this whole thing at the very first episode where Marin Kitagawa gets on a guy. She berates a dude who hits on her and then insults something that she likes. Good old Brandon Varnell. He writes books, by the way, a lot of harem books. Because of a traumatic experience when I was younger, I always had issues maintaining relationships in high school. To top it off, none of the girls I dated were ever supportive of my hobbies. I had to hide the fact that I was a nerd because of bullying. I remember dating one girl who quite unintentionally insulted me when she said someone buying a pack of Pokemon cards and called them a disgusting nerd. I doubt she'd have dated me if she found out I had a collection of I had collected all 151 original Pokemon cards. Not only do I relate to Gojo, the main character in the series, hard, but watching My Dress Up Darling did indeed make me wish I had met a girl like Marin Kitagawa in high school. Yeah, I guess high schoolers aren't allowed to wear swimsuits. And let's not forget, most anime are tailored for teenagers, so why would teenagers not be allowed to enjoy it? Correct. This is a series directed at teens. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. So yeah, this is effectively where we're at. You are now berated for for saying that, one, this is attractive. Two, for saying that you like a series that has some content that people don't like. I mean, I could line up a bunch of anime characters like Tatsumaki. I could take Tatsumaki. I could take Ana Yamada from The Dangers of My Heart, Marin Kitagawa, and a bunch of others, and age versus looks and all that stuff. Now, that's an argument that doesn't make any fucking sense once you start breaking down the position. Effectively, what newer anime fans are getting on is that you should only like shonens because this stuff is evil and it's bad and ooh. And when people correct them on that, they respond with fucking straw man arguments. So let's start with this. Let's share this tab instead. So this was basically a exactly Pilgrim. So here we have someone, this is screaming, I'm better than you because I don't shower. Basically making fun of someone who is defending the kind of content I'm talking about. A series with a good story. Yes, and I genuinely can't wait for them to fucking get out of here because they annoy the shit out of me. So effectively, we have this person calling someone a filthy weeb because they like slice of life anime / My Dress Up Darling. So this person decided, question, do you even know her? Haruhi Suzumiya from the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, a slice of life series. And that prompted this person to respond with the most fucking straw man argument ever. Twitter boys, when you don't know some random anime show from the 1980s that's called I Got Reincarnated as Diddy and now I want to go to the store and buy a cupcake. First of all, there's nothing Diddy about this fucking series. Second of all, it did not come out in the 80s. It came out in the fucking 2000s, I believe. And it's one of the bigger anime of all time. I saw some people talk about it being credited as one of the things that actually helped keep anime relevant. It was that popular. So yeah, here we go with more straw man. So how the two words I really don't want to talk about on this channel act when normal people want to watch mainstream anime instead of I got reincarnated as my stepsister's dildo. Again, you have fucking straw manned the argument. We've pointed out the fact that you don't know shit about anime. You just got in on the popular stuff that everyone talks about and didn't actually come to understand come to understand the medium. They're tourists. They don't know what they're talking about. They only go for mainstream stuff and then act like we're the weirdos for actually liking the genre. You don't, or sorry, the medium. You don't actually like the medium. If you're trying to argue that waifu stuff, that anything that isn't a mainstream anime makes us not normal or the problem. You folks call Haruhi a random 1980 Diddy or 1980s anime and a Diddy anime. I cannot take you seriously. They know nothing about this. They have seen the surface level. So yeah, this is the problem I have with a lot of the newer anime fans is they will berate you and they will abuse words like PDF file because you said you liked My Dress Up Darling, and they will try and fucking bully you out of your passion because they think they know it better than you when they got in and watched all the popular shonen surface level normie shit. Normies tend to be a huge, well, I shouldn't say normies because not all normies are a problem. I know normies who aren't an issue. They don't go around being assholes. Tourists are the issue. It just so happened that anime was one of the few mediums that didn't fucking suck. It just so happened that anime was one of the few mediums that wasn't awful. COVID pushed a lot of people who had nothing better to do. A lot of minors who don't know how to actually interact with fandoms into anime, and they got into shonen and they thought, oh, okay, this is cool. This is cool. Let's do this anime thing. And then they find out that anime has a large number of different kinds of stories. They cover a lot of things. Are all of them good? No. Most certainly not. But it's become a problem with people just absolutely abusing the shit out of the P word because you are an otaku. And it really reaffirms that like people who actually genuinely enjoy anime or enjoy a thing, let's just go with a thing, are always the enemy of people who just want to be there for the cool factor. It became the cool thing to like anime. It became the cool thing to then go around acting like good anime or good stories are ditty stories or evil or make you a weirdo because you enjoy something that has meaning to it. Anyone can like it, but not everyone will. So stop saying it's for everyone and stop changing it to try and get everyone. Correct. The only true everyone properties are the series that are not made for everyone, ironically. Only by finding something that works rather than trying to make it work for everyone does something succeed. Because guess what? You cannot please everyone. Not everyone will be happy with something. Oh. Popularity is what is like the red giant phase of a entertainment property. And if you don't know what that means, effectively, when let's talk a little bit of cosmology because this is something I like. When a star begins to reach the end of its life, the energy source changes. It runs out of helium or out of hydrogen to fuse, and it starts fusing helium. And then it inflates, and it turns to a red giant, basically. And that is one of the final stages of a star's life, because after that, the only thing that's left is for the star's internal system to completely collapse, and then either the outer shell gets thrown off into space, and all that's left is a white dwarf, or it goes supernova and absolutely blows up. And you can make the same analogy for entertainment. When something gets incredibly popular, it goes into the red giant phase. When it becomes a common thing for normies to really like a series, that is when it goes into that red giant phase. And then from there, all you can expect for it to do is to peter out into a small shadow of its former self, or to just absolutely implode and take out everything with it. I've never actually seen a property come back from the massive fucking popularity surge. They always go to shit once they become incredibly lucrative, because that only attracts people who don't have the best interest of the medium in mind. It's kind of the same thing here. This is the whole anime fandom is going to shit because it has attracted a lot of people who just don't play nice with people who like things that have been a thing in anime for years at this point. Look, as far as that goes, I really want to get a telescope because, like, these past couple of years, I've been getting really into like cosmology and astronomy. So, like, I will actually want to go out and like start doing some of that stuff. But it is fucking cold in Illinois, so it would be like a summer thing. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I'd rather be bullied and seen as uncool than it be widely loved or accepted and loved. Yes, because honestly, when things are niche, they are better. Like I said, when the best everyone properties are the things that have a targeted audience. Because anyone can get into them, there is nothing barring them from it. It's just that only select people will. Shout it from the fucking mountaintops, Arceus. But yeah, let's end the night by making fun of one of the biggest fucking clowns on the internet, because he decided to have a weigh in on some anime. Oh, there we go. So Hassan Piker decided that he was going to go on to the Trash Taste podcast, which honestly I've never cared for the Trash Taste podcast. They seem like, I don't know, not people I would really be interested in hearing their opinions on. But people did not like the fact that Hassan was on there. Funny how this comment section suddenly started glazing Hassan after ripping him apart. I don't think we didn't notice that the top comments got removed. So yeah, but effectively, Hassan came onto the podcast, and their entire fan base started ripping him a new one. So they started deleting comments, and then Hassan, I'll show you the clip in a bit, actually told his fans to go and like counter the brigade, quote unquote. Sad to see they had to delete so many comments. I like Trash Taste, but this is very disappointing. Insecure much? Deleting all the comments hating on Hassan is wild, though. So yeah, here is. Oh, was I sharing the wrong tab this whole fucking time? Oops. Oh well.
Mr. President, the second Piker has hit the Trash Taste. Why would you do this, Hassan? Really? The terrorist endorser? Shame. I noticed lately you guys are not up to date with the internet, but this is a whole new level of out of touch. Having an openly racist person on, downvote. Do not have him again, please. Holy fuck. Too bad I get irritated from just seeing his face. The guy has said so many profoundly idiotic things that I honestly cannot listen to a word from him. The brigade is on, folks. Get in and actively counter the brigade. They dislike botted the video immediately. Lol, is at 2.5k dislikes. You really upset the weebs this time? Yeah.
So yeah, Hassan Piker is absolute scum. Watch the recent video of Hamas celebrating the death of Jewish children. Absolutely revolting. And this guy is a fan of, yes, I know. Hassan is a fucking nitwit. He is like fucking retarded. I just wanted to point out that when it comes to like the anime fandom, this again is another guy who I don't really think interacts much with the fandom, and he's been like in lockstep with people who have said like anime is for right wingers because of like waifu stuff. And not to get too much into like Hassan or anything, because I look, he's retarded. His fans are all fucking illiterate children who don't understand anything. And I'll leave it at that. The fact that he got upset that people were trashing him and told his fans to go counter it pretty much tells you all the things you need to know about this guy. Like, I don't understand how he's so popular. But that's pretty much going to be it for tonight. I wanted to make a point that like gatekeeping in anime is an absolutely necessary thing. Not along any lines other than the people who are going to harass other fans of anime for the things they like. You should be absolutely allowed to enjoy a slice of life anime. You should absolutely be allowed to enjoy your shonen anime. You should absolutely you should absolutely be allowed to only watch shonen anime whatsoever and not like slice of life. All those things are fine. The line I draw is when you try to revise the history of anime to make it seem like the people who are defending their hobby from people who want to bully others over waifus and otaku stuff. The point where you want to like revise history to make them like the normal people. That's the issue. They're tourists if they behave like that. They come into an area, they decide that they want to take over that area because it's popular, and the only reason they're there is because it's now popular. And then the locals are like, hey, no, fuck you. And then they get all butthurt and act like they were always there. That is effectively what post-COVID anime fans are. They're occupiers, colonizers, tourists, whatever you want to call them in the entertainment space. They come in, they never were actually really a part of it. They saw a few things that they thought were cool and then decided that they were the anime community, not you, the person who's been here since before they were. Keep it going right now. Keep it going a bit longer. I mean, I technically could keep it going a bit longer. Let me clear out some tabs so that I'm not fucking overloaded here. Honestly, muffler tape. Okay, I was just frozen. Honestly, muffler tape, I kind of wish that I had gotten in on anime sooner than I did. Let's talk about this guy. Oh, actually, I do have one more thing I do need to talk about. After I talk about this here really quick. So, Due to the increase in incidents involving foreign tourists, especially live streamers and content creators in Sapporo, Hokkaido, establishments in the city have begun placing signs like these at their entrance. Due to the continuing trouble, we are not accepting customers from overseas. I'm gonna need to get ready for bed, bro. But I love these streams. Always love you. I love them, bro. Stay safe and have fun. Enjoy what you like, y'all. Never let anyone decide that for you. Exactly. Good night, Arceus. See you later. But yeah, honestly, as far as the Japanese stuff goes, oh, I never put it up on screen. Oops. As far as the Japanese stuff goes, I do not blame them, especially with the Ice Poseidon shit that's been going on, with a bunch of streamers basically rolling around doing fucking shit up. I absolutely do not have an issue with Japan restricting who they want to do, even if it's gonna fuck with me. There we go. Here and there, but honestly, just got into it deeply for the last 5 years. Yeah. The thing is, I'm kind of torn when it comes to that. One, I don't want the medium to get overly popular to the point where it attracts tourists, as it kind of has. On the other hand, I do want as many people to know that there is good stuff out here to watch in the anime, in the medium of anime, like genuinely good stories that I think a lot of people will like. I just have an issue with the people who want to like act like they're now the fandom, even though they don't represent even half of the people who have watched anime. It's fucking obnoxious, honestly. But yeah, the Japan stuff, I honestly don't blame them for starting to restrict the people that they are actually involved with, doing business with. It's going to happen. So I actually am going to kind of wrap it up here because my voice is getting a little rough. I do need to take a break, but there are a couple of announcements I do need to make. So this upcoming week, I'm going to be doing my normal videos, but Wednesday, I probably won't post one because we will be doing Fictionology Attack on Titan. And that will be Wednesday, 6. I forget. Well, it really depends on their taste as far as getting a newcomer into anime. Because there are a lot of stuff. Personally, I think like something my recommendations would be something short, that isn't like a huge like monolithic series to catch up with. I would never recommend Naruto or any of the big 3 because they run for an eternity. I also wouldn't recommend anything too like complicated or niche like ReZero or Overlord or any stuff like that. My go-to pick would probably be something like, if we're talking about someone who likes shonen, I would say Mob Psycho would be like my first pick. Mob Psycho, Cowboy Bebop, those are 2 good ones that I think are good to start with. Full Metal Alchemist is another good starter series. Some of like the classic, like older ones. You want to pick something like from the, I don't know, from earlier years, because some of the newer stuff can be a little bit harder to swallow. Like I understand that. Then you sort of, I don't know, from there as far as recommendations go, some of the bigger shonens would be worth it. If you're talking romance or like slice of life or romance or anything, easy, Love is War. I try to stay away from things that are too, as far as like a recommendation for a newbie, so things that are too long, too smutty, or too complicated. ease into it. That's the thing, is it's really going to come down to, like I said, it's really going to come down to the person and their tastes. Not everyone's going to like everything. It really depends on the person, but in general, my like there you go. Yeah, Gintama. There's another thing. Like, my first anime was Dragon Ball Z. I don't think I would recommend that to most people as far as a beginner anime. So yeah. Let's see here. Let me pull up my messages. All right, yeah. So Wednesday, 7 p.m. CST, we are doing Fictionology Attack on Titan. So I hope you all tune in for that. We're basically doing a whole breakdown of the series Attack on Titan. Otherwise, effect this week is probably going to be 2 of my more short form videos. And then, I mean, do the usual Saturday live stream. Although there is the upcoming thing of I will probably be doing some Monster Hunter Wilds streaming when that comes out. So I don't have a specific time for that either. As far as the upcoming Fictionology stream goes, that will be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So I mean, you guys can look up the conversions for what that is, but that's what I'm operating off of. That's what all my guests have agreed to. That said, I'm gonna end the stream by doing a little bit of test and playing something I made specifically for that stream as a an outro. Hold on a second. Let me. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you'll stick around, and thank you to everyone who chats and hangs out. It really makes my night when I do this, when I have people to interact with. So I appreciate every one of you. That said,
What's wrong? Not enjoying yourself so much anymore? Defend him! To the last man, if that's what it comes to! Eren must reach the gate! Damn you! You traitors! And as we ride to certain death, we trust our successors to do the same for us! Because my soldiers do not buckle or yield when faced with the cruelty of this world! My soldiers push forward! My soldiers scream out! My soldiers rage!